What is going on? It's time for the video that you guys have been asking me for quite some time now, and that is my Late Reviews Roundup 2022. Before I continue on, I do want to apologize that it took me a lot longer than I expected to get this video out. I was ready to get this out in the beginning of this month, but of course, as you can imagine, things got caught up, and unfortunately, on Christmas Eve going to Christmas Day, I got sick. And if you guys couldn't tell, I'm still trying to fight that sickness off. I have gotten much better since Christmas. You guys should have seen me on that morning. Oh my god, it was terrible. Before I continue on, something I gotta tell you guys off the bat really quick. There are plenty of movies that came out this year that I just did not have the time to see, but as I have said every single year, with the films that I did see, I either didn't have the chance to review them at the time being, or things got in the way, aka life. But like I have said every single time I've done one of these, I know you guys don't want to leave you hanging in terms of my thoughts, so here we go, guys. Here is my Late Reviews Roundup for 2022, starting off with The Bad Guys. So The Bad Guys is an animated action comedy in which we follow a group of animals who are essentially the best thieves, essentially, in this movie's world, until one day when they try and perform the most greatest heist of all time. But then, when they're caught in the act, this one person sees potential in turning them into good guys. I first saw a unfinished cinematic reel that was presented to us at CinemaCon, and I thought that this could be really cool. Right off the bat, I do want to say really quick, do I think that The Bad Guys breaks any new ground in the animation genre? No. Is the movie kind of predictable? Yes, it is. And does it offer the same message that you've seen a billion times in other animated films? Yes, it does. However, at the same time, this movie was a lot of fun. From beginning to end, I was smiling, I was laughing, I just had a really good time. The voice cast here absolutely kills it, especially Sam Rockwell, who is my favorite actors working today. The animation, not to mention, is absolutely stunning. And overall, guys, this is just a film that you would just take your whole family to and have a great time, whether it's going to the movie theater, well, December now, or you would watch it at home. But guys, it is still nonetheless a fun animation for the entire family, and I'm going to give The Bad Guys a 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't seen this film, go check it out, guys. Next up is my review of Turning Red, which I believe was the first Pixar film to be released this year, although not in theaters, only on Disney+, which makes me beg the question, why was this not released in theaters? In Turning Red, we follow a 13-year-old named May who lives within this family, and her mother, to say the least, is overburdening. And that's an understatement. Her and her friends obsess over this boy band. They're coming to town. She also has a huge crush. But one day she wakes up when she finds out one big discovery, that when she gets some sort of emotion, whether it's normal or extreme, she turned into a giant red panda. I had heard many things about this movie. I had heard it was a phenomenal film, and then I had heard that it was just an overrated Pixar film. I didn't know what I was going to think about this movie, but I gotta tell you guys, after I watched this movie is terrific. Turning Red was such a brilliant and a heartwarming film. I mean, I was genuinely not expecting to relate to this movie in the ways that I did. Of course, the animation here looks absolutely stellar. I mean, it's a Pixar film. If their animation didn't look good, I would be shocked at this point. The voice acting is great. The musical score is great. The story is incredible in the film. And the relationship that May has with not only her parents, but her friends, I thought was such a sweet and heartwarming thing. There are a couple of scenes, though, that I think were a bit much. And I do think that one of the characters was really feckin' annoying at first, to say the least. Though I'm not gonna lie to you guys, when it came down to the film's ending, yeah, I got into my emotions and I was tearing up. I'm gonna give Pixar's Turning Red a 4.75 out of 5. If you haven't seen Turning Red, it's on Disney+. Please check it out, guys. It is such a wonderful film. Next up is my review of Men, written and directed by Alex Garland, a film that I was looking forward to so much. But anyways, in Men, we follow a character portrayed by Jessie Buckley who, after she experiences a very traumatic experience, she goes to the countryside where she tries to basically just takes a lot of time for herself. However, while in the countryside, she begins to see a couple of people that might be the same person and who begin to haunt her. I'm a big fan of Alex Garland. I mean, I loved Ex Machina. I loved Annihilation, and I even left the series devs on Hulu, which I highly recommend you guys check out. The first 2 acts of Men are very, very good. In fact, they stumble upon greatness. Rory Kinnear, I thought, was also brilliant. The film is also beautifully shot, and it has such a haunting and such an understatement of a score to it. There are many times as well that I found myself on the edge of my seat with the suspense that Alex Garland creates in this film. But, and it's a big but, when it comes down to that third act, the third act of this film, I feel like is either going to leave you going like, oh my god, that was brilliant, or you're going to be like, it's going to be too drawn out, just way over the top and pretentious, and unfortunately on my end, I fall on the latter side. I was really enjoying Men for the first 2 acts of this film, but once that third act hit, I went from pretty much enjoying this film to unfortunately not enjoying the film. And man, it hurts me to say this because I was really looking forward to Men, knowing how much I loved Alex Garland's previous 3 projects, but all in all, I'm going to give Men a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I'm telling you guys right now, if it wasn't for the third act, Men would have probably been a 4 out of 5 type of film, but since the ending went the way it did, and unfortunately brought it down to a 2.5 out of 5 movie for me. For my next review, I have Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Chippendale Rescue Rangers is a live-action animation hybrid among, or akin, should I say, to, let's say, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's based on the Chippendale show that came out a while ago, to which I don't remember myself watching that show, but anyways, we follow, as you can imagine, Chippendale as after something goes wrong, their friendship just falls apart of a falling out until many years later, they discover their friend has been essentially kidnapped and they're on the case trying to find their friend. I was genuinely not expecting for this movie to be as fun nor as funny as it was. And honest to God, guys, the best way I can describe Chippendale Rescue Rangers is essentially, this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit for a new generation. If you love that film, there is a high chance that you were going to absolutely love this film. I didn't absolutely love the film as it didn't quite get to my 5 out of 5 part, but at the same time, whether it comes to Akiva Schaffer's great directing, the brilliant screenplay with such great meta commentary and meta humor given the state of Hollywood today, the brilliant animation, if you have Disney Plus, and if you love the original Chippendale show, please guys, check out this movie. All in all, I'm going to give Chippendale Rescue Rangers a 4.5 out of 5. I was not expecting to have the great time I have this movie. Again, if you have Disney Plus, watch this movie as soon as you possibly can. Going on to the next review, I have my review of Bros, which is directed by Nicholas Stoller and written by, if I'm not mistaken, him and Billy Eichner. In Bros, we follow a character portrayed by Billy Eichner who prides himself on being single, of course, as y'all can imagine, until he runs into one particular person that also prides himself on being single and having fun. Why did I say sequel? I meant single. Oh my god, Austin, stop speaking so fast. I'm keeping that in there, I don't care. But also just wants to have fun until they find out that, well, they're attracted to one another. I went into this film with high expectations, and this movie was a great time. Not only is Bros a great time, but I found myself laughing my ass off so many times. If there's one thing in particular that I absolutely about Bros, until this film even more so breaks the mold for the LGBT community, especially when it comes to filmmaking. I not only found Bros to be very, and I mean very funny, but also to be very heartwarming, but also at times quite heartbreaking, because there are many scenes in this movie to which you can see where a certain thing's gonna come, you're just going like, oh no, don't. Bros just follow the same formula as every other rom-com out there, meaning that the same structure that Bros has, it has literally the exact same structure as every other rom-com out there, and there are a couple of predictable moments, but nonetheless, guys, Bros is a heartwarming film, it's a heartbreaking film, but most of all, it is just fecking hilarious, and all in all, I'm gonna give Bros a 4 out of 5. Really bummed I'm missing this in the theater because, well, a hurricane was coming by that didn't really hit, but nonetheless, guys, if you haven't seen Bros, check this film out. It is a great and funny time. Next up is my review for Don't Worry Darling, directed by Olivia Wilde. In Don't Worry Darling, we follow a housewife portrayed by Florence Pugh as she lives in the seemingly perfect utopia with her husband portrayed by Harry Styles, although as things go along, she starts to see some things that don't quite make sense and rather get, let's just say, sinister. First of all, I will say this much. Don't Worry Darling starts off incredibly strong. I mean, this movie's first act is so damn strong, and Olivia Wilde sets up a lot of things, whether it's mystery, subliminal images, and not to mention as well that Florence Pugh is by far the best aspect about the entire film. Chris Pine was great, Matthew Batick's cinematography is great, and John Powell's score kicks so much ass. Unfortunately though, right when we get to Don't Worry Darling's third act, this movie falls apart so bad. Remember how I mentioned how Olivia Wilde sets up quite a few things in those first two acts? Well, unfortunately, as many things that she sets up, she only answers a few of the things that she sets up of the many things that she sets up. I just went, huh? What was that about? With a very obvious plot twist. And by the way, Harry Styles, not great. Quite a few people have asked me if the film is worth watching, and I do think it is, but at the same time, as time went on, the more I found myself disliking the film. So all in all, I'm gonna give Don't Worry Darling a 2.5 out of 5. I really wanted to like this film, and man, it set this stuff up really nicely, but by the end, it just falls apart so flat. Next up, guys, is my review for Clerks 3, the third and I think final installment of the Clerks Trilogy. Now, I don't know if they're gonna make more. If Kevin Smith has ideas for Clerks 4, I'm curious, but I do kind of hope he ends with Clerks 3, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. In Clerks 3, as you can imagine, we follow Randall and Dante many years after the events of Clerks 2, in which, if you guys remember at the end of Clerks 2, Randall and Dante now co-own or own the Quick Stop store. Although until one day when things are going normal, Randall unfortunately has a heart attack, and when he survives his heart attack, he asks Dante to help him make a movie based on his experiences at the Quick Stop store. I love the first Clerks film. Clerks 2 is just hilarious, and Clerks 3, I think out of all the Clerks films, is surprisingly the most emotional and the most mature out of all three Clerks films. Clerks 3 definitely has very hilarious moments that had me laughing my ass up. What impressed me about Clerks 3 more than anything else is how layered the story is, especially the themes that this movie is touching upon in terms of morality and death, which I would have never expected in a Clerks film. I don't think that Clerks 3 is as funny as Clerks 1 and 2, as there are many spots where there's a joke and it does fall flat on its face, but I do think that Kevin Smith still makes up for really what is a very emotional story that, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, by the end, I was getting welled up in emotions. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and all in all, I'm going to give Clerks 3 a, 3.25 out of 5 stars. If you guys are big fans of the first two Clerks films, check out Clerks 3. It is a very I was trying to say it's a very well done third film in the Clerks trilogy. Next up is my review for Amsterdam, the latest film from David O. Russell. Amsterdam stars a huge, and I mean a huge ensemble cast, and includes such people like Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, John David Washington, Chris Rock, Taylor Swift, Michael Shannon. I mean, oh my god, Rami Malek, Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert De Niro. The cast list is absolutely insane for the film. In Amsterdam, we primarily follow three best friends who are portrayed, as you can imagine, by Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and John David Washington, who met during a war, and essentially, without giving too much away, all three of them become involved within a huge conspiracy. I'm pretty sure you've heard this phrase, a great cast does not make a great movie. And that applies to this movie in a nutshell. David O. Russell's Amsterdam is a huge, sprawling mess of a movie. Now, do not get me wrong to you guys. The cast of this movie is great. Primarily Christian Bale, John David Washington, Margot Robbie, All three of them have great chemistry, and all the other actors are great. The film was shot by my favorite cinematographer, Emilio Lubitsky, to which I'm pretty sure I muffed up his name, aka Chivo. The way how he shoots films still puts me in so much awe. There are times when this film had me absolutely hooked, but unfortunately, more than most of the time, I found myself just bored watching this movie. Oh my god, the movie is just all over the damn place. At the end, it finally focuses up into something that's kind of interesting, but overall as a film, I found Amsterdam just to be a big, squandering mess of a movie that really does not make the most of its potential at all, and I'm going to give Amsterdam a 1.5 out of 5. This film could have been great, but unfortunately, it was a mess. And a big one at that. Moving on to my second to last review, and that is Smile, directed by Parker Finn. If I'm not mistaken, let me look. I should have really looked this up before I started. But also in Parker Finn's directorial debut from the short film called Laura Hasn't Slept. Should have also looked that up too. In Smile, we follow a therapist named Rose Carter, who's portrayed by Sosie Bacon, who, after she experiences a very traumatic experience that involved a patient, she starts seeing some things that she can't really quite explain. And unfortunately, it may involve some very dire things. This is a really good psychological thriller, and this movie has more than a few scenes that are fucking freaky. Smile is such a well-done psychological thriller, but it also deals upon the themes of grief, trauma, and even depression too at times. Is Smile completely original? It is not, because here's the thing. If you have seen such films like, let's say, It Follows or even The Ring, Smile has the blueprints of both of those films, but primarily It Follows. It really has a lot of the blueprints from that film, but what makes Smile stand out from It Follows is the character development and the scares in this film. In terms of the scares, one thing I will say is this: there are quite a few of those false alarm jumps. However, there are more than a few scares that definitely caught me off guard. Not to mention as well that Smile has great style, and I can see Parker Finn going in so many great places, especially as a horror director. The sound design in this film is absolutely brilliant, culminating in with all this with a brilliant final act, which has easily one of the coolest and one of the most disturbing things, I won't give it away, that I have seen in a horror film in a long time. I had heard great things about Smile, and I had a great time with Smile, so overall, I'm going to give Smile a 3.75 out of 5. If you haven't seen this movie yet, guys, and if you love a good horror film with great scares, check out Smile. It is a great time. Moving on to my last review of my Late Reviews Roundup 2022, I have my review of Violent Night, starring David Harbour as Santa Claus. In Violent Night, we follow, as you can imagine, Santa Claus, portrayed by David Harbour, who is a Santa Claus who has seen quite a bit, and he's a Santa Claus that's starting to become like he has at the end of his road, until one day when we find this little girl and her family visiting her dad's parents' house, which happens to be full of some of the biggest assholes out there with a great appearance, which I was not expecting. While they're spending Christmas at this place, their celebration is interrupted by a character portrayed by John Leguizamo, who proclaims himself to be essentially a Scrooge. He takes everyone in that house under hostage until one of the daughters has a radio that directly contacts, or supposedly directly contacts, Santa, and David Harbour's Santa turns out to have some pretty kick-ass skills. All I wanted for this movie was just David Harbour as Santa kicking some merry ass, to say the least. And my god, this movie, guys, is a bloody good time. It is a lot of fun. Before I continue on, guys, a couple of things I do want to mention is this. Besides David Harbour, besides the little girl, and a couple of other people, and John Leguizamo, the other characters are assholes, and legitimately you want them to die because they're just annoying pieces of shit. It's a pretty thin story, but let's be honest with you guys. If you're going into Violent Night expecting the greatest or the greatest characters, you're gonna be disappointed. However, if you're going into this film expecting a kick-ass time with a kick-ass Santa portrayed by David Harbour, and the film is essentially Die Hard meets John Wick meets a little bit of Home Alone, you're going to have a great time. Not only does David Harbour absolutely crush as Santa, and I absolutely love the backstory to which I don't want to spoil for you all, but the backstory that he is given this film is badass. John Leguizamo eats up every single scene, and honest to God, guys, my favorite part of this movie was the relationship between the daughter character and David Harbour Santa Claus. I absolutely loved it, and of course, once that third act kicks in, I mean, the action is pretty great before then, but once that third act kicks in, you're in for one awesome, bloody fucking time. I mean, oh my god. All in all, I'm gonna give Violent Night a 3.5 out of 5. Again, don't go into this movie expecting the greatest thing ever. Just go into this expecting a fun time, and you're gonna have a great, bloody, jolly good time. That's gonna wrap it up for my Late Reviews Roundup 2022. I know there are a couple of films that were missing, like for example, I didn't have the chance to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2, although hopefully I will have the chance to see it, and I know there are plenty of films besides that I didn't get the chance to see it. I do apologize, but those are the films I saw, and I had to mention for this list. With all that being said, guys, so comment down below and let me know, what was your favorite movie out of this list, and what was your least favorite movie out of this list? Let me know below. If you guys want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I'm also on Snapchat, so if you guys want to follow me on all those social media platforms, all the links in the usernames are in the description below. Before I let you guys go, just to let you know, I am currently working on not only my best video games of the year, my favorite TV shows there, but also my worst and best films there, starting with my best games there, which is coming very, very soon. I hope y'all enjoyed my Late Reviews Roundup 2022. If so, please hit that like button, also subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell for my latest review goes live. If you guys want to see any of my previous 2 reviews, please click on right there or right there. And of course, until my next review or video goes live, I will see you all next time.